How to teach loved ones to be likable, charismatic, and influential. In this episode, we are going to continue teaching one of the 12 principles that answers the question, how to prepare your children for the future. Get ready. This is one of my favorites. You're going to see why. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've helped a lot of families empower themselves, their children, their grandchildren, their employees, if they're business owners, on teaching principles that unfortunately our colleges and universities are failing to teach correctly or effectively. If this is the first of the 12 that you're watching in this series on how to prepare your children for the future, I would encourage you to watch the other episodes. But as a framing, this all came about when we realized that many of our successful clients who sent their children to college, universities, and spent hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars to see their children move back home after graduation because they couldn't find a job. And we would test them on 12 skills that they should have learned in college. And they didn't. They failed miserably. We would take about 6 months and teach them these skills, and then they would have job offers lined up. So this particular episode is talking about how to teach your children or any you care about how to be likable, charismatic, have charisma, and to be influential. This is something that has always amazed me when I have applicants come in for a job. And oftentimes it's like, whoa, I had to almost charge up a dead battery and try to get things out of them. They were not proactive, they were not energetic, and frankly, they were not likable. And so let me show you the difference in how we teach this to our children and grandchildren and our own employees as they interface with our customers, with our clients, that sets us apart from a lot of the other firms. If you haven't noticed, in the world today, there are two basic groups of people, and sometimes we simplify and call them the abundant-minded people versus the scarcity-minded people. In a nutshell, the scarcity-minded people are usually always talking about what's going wrong in the world. They're always talking about what's going wrong in their life. It's either about how they feel about themselves, how other people feel about them, how they feel about other people. They tear down other people. And it's sort of like commiserating versus the other people that are always looking at the bright side. The glass is half full instead of half empty. They're positive people. You love to be around them. They're upbeat, except for the people who love to just commiserate. They go, oh, golly, you're just being a Pollyanna or whatever. But there's a huge difference between these two mindsets, and various authors talk about them in different ways, such as a stagnant mindset or maybe a growth mindset, abundant-minded, scarcity-minded. When we teach this to our children, we have 6 children, my wife and I, and we have 20 grandchildren. We teach it on family vacations with a purpose or at our annual grandpa's camp. When we begin to explain this, I will usually ask our children, our grandkids, now listen, do you brighten a room when you enter it, or do you brighten the room when you leave it? And they, oh, yeah, now you know people that brighten the room when they leave it, okay? In fact, when we began to build our financial planning firm, we only wanted to work with people that had abundant mindsets, that brightened our office when they entered it, because I frankly did not have time or energy to have that energy sucked out of the room with negativity. And people that came in were always complaining, always feeling like, well, I got to get my money's worth. And all they did was complain. No, and they would brighten the office when they left it. And so many times we would have to gently let them go, fire them as a client. And there's a few times where they realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be fired. And when I told them really why, they changed. And they could change almost instantly. There's a lot of people, they get offended because that's their life. They get around their family and they're used to just always making fun of the world, commiserating, always talking about what's going wrong and comparing the bad. So when I ask my children and grandchildren, do you brighten the room when you enter it or when you leave it? Now, there's some other metaphors to understand this point. I will often explain the difference between a fountain and a drain. Now, I've seen some pretty incredible fountains. I love water features. In our home, we have probably 5 indoors, and I have 2 recycling streams in our yard, one in the front yard and one in the backyard. It uses the same water and just recycles the stream. And I also have several fountains. But I get inspired because of some of the fountains I've seen in Tuscany. I remember when we did a Harley-Davidson trip for about 2 weeks through Bavaria and Germany. We go through Switzerland and we got down into Italy and Tuscany and all of the incredible fountains in some of those squares. Well, when I talk to my kids and grandkids, I simply ask, would you like to be perceived as a fountain when you're in a group of people where you're always this fresh, bubbling personality, or do you want to be a drain that sucks energy out of the room and happiness, and you're always just sucking energy out instead of giving new life to the room when you walk in? That's the difference between brightening the room when you enter versus when you leave it, if you're the fountain in the group of people instead of a drain. What's another way to look at this? So let me give you a little example that I give my grandchildren. I'll talk about Thomas Edison, whom I admire because Thomas Edison was really made famous because he invented what? The electric light, the incandescent light. Now, one of the reasons I like Edison is because he and his team had attempted to invent the electric light over 10,000 times when a young reporter came up to him and said, "Mr. Edison, how does that feel, having failed 10,000 times?" Do you remember what he said? He said, you're young, you haven't learned yet. I have not failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that don't work. And he went on 6,000 more attempts before he invented the electric light. But to me, one of his best inventions was not the light bulb. You'll recognize it here in just a second. See, Edison was able to figure out how to communicate 2,600 miles from New York to San Francisco in less than 6 seconds, when to buy, when to sell, using 2 symbols, a dot or a dash. Now, what's that? The Morse code, okay? But what utilized the Morse code? The telegraph. But see, he simplified communication with a dot or with a dash. So this was actually the precursor to what? Digital, binary, ones and zeros. Basically, LED lights, are they on or are they off? So when I was in high school and we had the scoreboard in the gymnasium or my first calculator, every single digit or letter of the alphabet could be displayed by lighting up 7, okay? These are called bits of information into a byte of information. If 2 of the LEDs were lit up, that would be a 1. If the one across the top was added, that would be a 7. If all of them were lit up, that would be an 8, or it could be a 9, or what. But all of the letters and the numbers could be described by, is that LED light on or off? So when you think about it, it's are you on or are you off? So when I talk about this with my kids and grandkids, are you on board or off board? Do you brighten the room when you enter it or when you leave it? Are you on or off? When we talk about spirituality, is a higher power up there looking down and saying, come on, are you with me or are you against me? It's that simple. Are you a fountain or are you a drain? Are you abundant-minded or scarcity-minded? Are you a giver or are you a taker? Life gives to the givers and takes from the takers. And my production artist here just reminded me of another one. He says you can either be celebrated or tolerated. Yeah, I hope you want to be celebrated instead of tolerated. This is the difference. When we begin to teach those we care about how to be likable, charismatic, brightening the room, and to be influential, people will want to be around you instead of counting the seconds they can get away from you, because you're poisonous to the feeling in the room or the environment, because you're commiserating and always talking about what's going wrong. Is this making sense? So if this is resonating with you, I would strongly encourage you to subscribe, click like, post a comment, share this episode. But this is one of 12 episodes that talk about how to prepare your children for the future. Now, when you subscribe to this channel, it's free, and be sure and click the bell, because then you'll be notified every time I post a new educational video, which I do almost on a daily basis. And this particular series contains 12 different principles, different videos that give you principles on how to prepare your children for a brighter future. And these 12 principles, unfortunately, we have found are not being effectively taught today in our colleges and universities. So be sure and subscribe and click like and share this episode. But let me show you how you can learn more about these principles and teach those you care about how to be likable, how to be charismatic, and how to be influential with those that they are around. They will then be able to secure the employment they want. They'll brighten the room when they enter it, and that makes all the difference in the world, I assure you. So this is the book that I would love to gift you. Entitlement, Abolition. It's 200 pages, and we have sent out thousands of these. No, I'll pay for the book. You simply go to entitlementabolitionbook.com. It's click on the link below there. And you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, and I'll cover the rest of that. And I'll pay for the book and fire it out to you. But there's options there to listen and learn, audio version. And also, if you like to watch and learn, there's even an 18-hour in-depth deep dive masterclass that I've recorded that you can invest in if this is something that you would love to learn and teach to those you care about. And in that 18-hour masterclass, you'll have the ability to learn and teach principles and have tools to be able to empower those that you care about.